those generators are renewable. Okay, so they have some uncertainties along with that, so we will talk about that uncertainty also. And we have energy storage coming into the picture, so we will talk about energy storage as well. So like all the participants, all of these entities, they seek so whenever they are in the system, they want to maximize their profit. And if some cost or whatever is the financial implication is imposed on them, they won't have optimal method, so that they have to pay less. Okay, so whatever they are, if they are utilizing the network to some extent, they have to pay according to that extent only, not okay, if I'm just close to the load center, I don't have to pay the fees, or then fees for the utilizing network, the whole network. So all the participants sees either some kind of cost, or also if they are utilizing the network, there will be some network losses, so they sees network losses as well. And as I talked about, that lot of renewable and energy storage coming into the picture, and in the distribution sector also they are there. So if they are coordinating, because the renewable the nature of the renewable is very uncertain, so they usually coordinate with the storage entities. And in that case, how they are going to allocate the profit, so that is again the profit settlement. So we will talk about three kind of settlement. First of all is the um, first we talk about the coordination and settlement of the renewable with the storage. So what are the needs, what are the challenges, how, what is the solution, and how they are going to settle the profit between whatever the profit they are making out to the market, how they are going to settle between the both of renewable and storage. Then we will talk about some cost allocation or the cost settlement to the participants. So in that case, and then the network loss allocation. So in the case of deviation cost settlement and network loss allocation, the participants can be all. In the first problem, the coordination settlement, we are only considering two entities, which are renewable generation and energy storage system, and then the rest two parts will be to all the entities in the system. So the flow of the session will be like, first we will talk about the coordination and settlement, then division cost, and then for the network loss allocation, I have a different part, like another PPT. So we'll talk about that. So So let's talk about the coordination of renewable with the storage. So, due to the increased in the price, and also the availability of the fossil fuels is very less. So most of the governments around the world, like all the people, they are more encouraged towards the green energy production. Okay, so a large number of DGs, and in this case, like I'm considering DGs are the renewable energy resources. Okay, so our RES are integrated in the recent years, and they can be of two type. One is like non-dispatchable. Non-dispatchable means even if you dispatch like wind and solar, it depends upon the weather and other environmental conditions, that how much they are going to produce. So even if you dispatch them, they will not follow the strict schedule. Then there are some dispatchable generation, which is like a small hydro. So for a short term, you can dispatch a small hydro, and biogas and diesel. So diesel is not renewable energy, but still, I can say that we consider this as a distributed generation, which is connected in the distribution network. So these are two kinds of generators or DGs are integrated in recent years. Now, if they are coming into the picture, they will definitely participate in the system. And as a generator, they participate in the different markets. Okay, so with the DGs with the low capacity, they can directly participate. So they participate in power trading using retailer discoms. Like suppose a DZ2 and DG3 are like have a very small capacity. So because of the grid codes and with the small capacity, they usually go with the aggregator. It can be a retailer, a distribution company, or any sort of aggregator. And using those, they participate in the different markets. Then DGs with the large capacity, they can directly bid into the different markets available. So that's the one classification, that based upon the capacity. Usually they follow these trends. It is not necessarily like a small capacity. If it fulfills the grid codes that at the rules for the participation in the market, it can directly participate in the different markets as well. Okay, then now let's talk about like the different markets we have. So uh, I think day ahead market is a 24-hour ahead market. So you schedule your DGs and the day ahead market. Then we have a intraday ID market, which is the intraday market. So as all the renewables, they have very large uncertainty. Once they are close to the real time or close to their like point of time of delivery, the power, they sees a better forecast. So to update whatever they have scheduled in the day market, they may participate in the intraday market. And then we have a real time market, which is of a last resort, and whatever is the remaining unbalance, it will be settled using real time market. Okay, so like if I talk about like all of these market floors, the timeline is like for day ahead we have 24 hours. So all the markets they are being scheduled for 24 hours in a day ahead. Usually like day minus 1 10 a.m is the time of like bidding. So they bid, and up to 12 all the participants submit bids, and then we clear the market. Now in between, like between day ahead and real time, we have usually like if I go with the Nordic pool example, they have 6 intraday sessions. Okay, and the timeline is in this figure that like first intraday session is for 24/7 hours, like 3 hours extra, and then that it is for 24 hours. But that gate closer at the bidding time is not like way ahead, which is like in case of day ahead market is just 10 a.m. It is just close to the uh, actual point of delivery, like just 3 hours ahead. So they have a better picture, and so on. Like we have in different intraday markets, so we can whatever is the schedule we have procured in the day market, and if there is some imbalance because of the weather or because of the, let's say, maintenance, or because of any kind of uncertainty, we can rectify in these intraday markets. And if still if we have some like unbalance, because most of the time the real time market prices are high, so nobody wants to go there. They have to pay a large penalty, and the profit uncertainty is very high in that case. So we'll talk about uncertainties in detail. So they have to make a financial decision. Okay, so after 2003 act, in India, the competition has been introduced in electricity or the power industry. Okay, so in if I talk about the international perspective, it was way before 2003, but in India, we like just after 2003, we started incorporating the market in the system. So after this, all the participants are more concerned about their financial dues, that whatever they are paying or whatever they are getting, they are more concerned about that. So they to make more profit, they participate over different electricity markets. So like it can be a bilateral market as well, which is weeks ahead, months ahead, years ahead. Okay, so they participate in the different market based upon the portfolio they have, all the participants, to make the profit. Okay, so whatever is the profit and the cost associated with these kind of energy services must be allocated efficiently. The settlement has to be we have to look for the settlement and some efficient mechanism to do that. Okay, so now let's talk about what are the challenges with the renewable. So renewables like wind and solar, they are very high. They have very high variability and uncertainty. Like it's all dependent upon the environment and weather. So when they are close to real time, the forecast is better, and they have less uncertainty. So they can participate market with more comfort. And if they are like suppose and they are participating in 24-hour ahead, the comfort level will be less, because they like even the wind power plant doesn't know the actual schedule. Okay, like you can we can understand this by this example. Like let's say I have taken a picture from a far distance. Okay, so and like with the very less quality of the camera. So let's say this is the picture, and if I go like move close using the zoom, the picture quality is better. So as soon as you move towards real time, the quality gets better and better. So like if I again move close, it's more better, and if I like just close to the real time, like in case of wind power plant, I will be more sure, more certain that okay, in this picture, like from here I cannot say what is there in the sea. Okay, even I cannot even see like there is a sea out there. Okay, and if I move just close there, like I can see that there are two ships. So as soon as we move closer to the real time, we have a better picture, and then we are more comfortable in the bidding. So to so this is the like nature of renewables that we have to face, that they are very uncertain, like way ahead of the time. So to overcome this variability and uncertainty in power, wind power producers have following options. So like we have some solutions that okay, we know that wind power plants are all the renewables have this kind of problem with them. Uncertainty is always there. So what are the options with the let's say wind producer? So first is it bid over different trading floors, okay, and like from day ahead to intraday and then close to real time to balance the power schedule. So it has like bid close to the real time so that it will have a better picture, and it will balance the power schedule. Then another option is it form a collision with other wind farm at a different geographical location. So this is like one study that if we have different wind farms at different geographical location, and if they form a collision, the aggregated power outcome will have less variability. Still, it will be uncertain, but the variability will be less. So they can do that to reduce the like the variability to some extent. They can do that, uh, but again, the second point is very difficult because like wind farms at different geographical locations, and if they are participating in the market, it's a complicated process. So another option is form collision with the balancing power producer. So what they can do is they can form a collision with the balancing power producer. Balancing power producer is a power producer which balance out whatever is the uncertainty. So suppose if wind power plant has the excess power generation from the schedule, and the balancing power producer can charge it. So in this case, I am the balancing power producer I am assuming is energy storage. So it can charge, and if it is we have less like the wind power is less from whatever is the schedule, then it can discharge to maintain the schedule. So these are the options with that. So we can formulate it. Okay. So let's talk about the solution. So like these are the three options. Now, how to model uncertainty and variability. So what is the solution of the uncertainty and variability? So basically, they see the imbalance cost. Imbalance cost is like whatever is the like they have schedule in the real time, and suppose sorry schedule in the day ahead market, and in real time if they deviate from the day ahead schedule, they have to pay a imbalance cost which is at the real time price. So this cost is real time price multiplied with the difference of real time power output minus day ahead power output. So that decision making can be a risk based imbalance cost minimization problem, and like this kind of so we are making this decision again day ahead, so we can have a forecast of prices also, that what will be the price in the real time, what will be the like forecast of the actual power in the real time, and what is the schedule we are facing. So we can solve this using Markov process or stochastic programming. So this is the one way of doing it. Now, another solution is utilization of intraday market. So first is you bid in the day market, you minimize your imbalance cost, and based upon that optimization problem, whatever schedule you are getting in day market, just follow that schedule so that you will face a like based upon the different scenarios you have created, uh, you will face an expected minimum imbalance cost. Now, another way is utilization of intraday markets. So intraday markets are used to rectify the schedule between day ahead and real time as a like as we are moving close to the uh, actual time of power delivery, and the forecast is better. So these are considered a very good platform to facilitate the variable nature of renewable. So imbalance cost will be minimized by adjusting the day-ahead schedule in intraday market as well. Okay. Now another the option we have talked about is the form collision. So another way of overcoming the uncertainty, we can form a collision or a corporation with a power balancing entity. So in that case, we need a coordinated operation. So usually that power balancing entities can be a hydropower plant, a pump storage power plant, or a battery storage. Okay. So in that case, and as we have already talked about that collision aggregation of two or more renewable wind power producers to reduce the variability and uncertainty, but they have to be two or like all these different wind power producers has to be located at a different geographical location. Okay, so these are the solutions. Now what can be one possible solution? So the decision making should be risk constant. So like if we are making some decision for the wind power producer, it should consider the risk into the picture. So whatever is the risk they are facing, it should, if we are making some decision, we have to know that what will be the risk along with that decision, so that the decision maker or the producer can make a better decision. Then another like form alliance with the power balancing entity. So like in this talk we are considering only energy storage system. I'm not talking about the pump storage. So in this we can form a collision with the power balancing entity. Along with that, this wind power producer at the renewable will trade into all the markets. Okay, so we are utilizing all the possible solutions which are helping to reduce the uncertainty and variability, or to like minimizing the imbalance cost. And we are utilizing all of these along with the risk constant profit maximization. That if we are maximizing like making a decision by profit maximization, the decision should also take care the risk value in it. Okay, so then let's say like we are a wind power producer and energy storage, they are making a collision or a alliance. Then this is called a cooperative game theory. So if we form alliance or collision with other participants, okay, so now what are the regions, like how, if we are making a collision, what can be the reason? So one is that due to the possibility of external enforcement. Okay, so it's like suppose naturally we are like we have to work together, or like through a contract law, like government imposed some law that okay, if you have a wind power producer, you have to install a energy storage along with that. So if that kind of law is there, then we are like we are forced to make a collision. Another way, like if suppose if I want to work with somebody, I will only make alliance if it maximize the like my profit or like my objective, whatever is the objective I have. So two parties will only form coalition if it maximize the participants' objective. So the condition for cooperation is, let's say we have two participants, then the individual, let's say they are getting some value one and value two. So whatever is they are getting when they are together, value one two, it should be either greater than or equals to the individual sum of both the values. It can be anything, the like whatever is the objective they have. So based upon that objective, we can calculate the value. So that is the condition for cooperation. So if a wind farm and energy storage are making collision, they should also satisfy this condition. Okay, so we have seen that profit of wind and storage is always greater than the sum of individual profit of wind and storage. And another kind of like this kind of topology we can see in the network losses also, that sum of the losses when individual participants is connected is always less than the total network losses when all the participants are present together. Okay, so we can use cooperative game theory for allocation of the profit between wind and storage. Also we can use the same cooperative game theory for the network loss allocation and the network cost allocation. So we are going to use game theory, cooperative game theory, for settlement of profit between wind and storage, and then cost and losses between the different participants of the distribution network. So now let's talk about the coordinated operation of the wind and energy storage. So wind power is, like we already know, it's non-dispatchable and plagued by uncertainties. So decision on the account of wind energy is treated to be risky, and wind energy storage coordination keep wind, like, so if they are coordinating, they are facing less imbalance cost, so they can be like remain in the market for the more amount, more time. Okay, so they are coordinating, or they are having a joint operation, then so the following assumptions are made for the coordinated operation. So first is, we have assumed that wind power plant bids into the head market and then use intraday markets to balance its schedule, so that the imbalance cost will be less. Then energy storage bids into the head market to make profit, and then it provides the balancing support in the real-time market to wind power producer. So whenever, so like it, the both the parties, wind power producer and energy storage, bid into the head market. Then whatever is the schedule, and based upon the like available forecast close to real time, wind power producer use intraday markets to balance its schedule. And again, like after the intraday market, in the real time, if there is further more uh, unbalance in the schedule of wind power plant, then we can use the energy storage to provide the balancing support in real time to wind power producer. And then a real-time balancing market is used to balance, like suppose after both of these two actions, like we are providing the balancing support from the energy storage, but again energy storage has certain capacity, so it cannot like provide the whole support. So if, again, let's assume that even after the real-time market or the balancing support provided by the energy storage, if there is still some unbalance, that will be settled in the real-time market as usual. Okay, and then energy storage is not participating in intraday market, because like energy storage, it's like we can schedule, we can dispatch it, whatever is the it is going to charge and discharge, so we can dispatch this energy storage, so it doesn't need intraday markets to balance or update the schedule. So these are the four assumptions we have making. So based upon those four assumptions, this is like the coordination problem. And like I won't go into detail in this mathematical formulation, but it's like expected profit or the revenue is the objective function, and we have a number of scenarios based upon the day ahead price, because all of this calculation we are doing uh, for to participate in the day ahead market. So we have all the lambda d are the day ahead prices, lambda I is intraday prices, imbalance cost is we are facing some imbalance cost. So we haven't like realize everything, so based upon forecast we make some scenarios. So this n equals to 1 to capital N are number of scenarios, and this is the probability of scenario. So we have created thousands of scenarios, and then if we add all of those scenarios, the profit of all of those scenarios multiplied with the probability, we get expected revenue. That okay, if I consider all the scenarios, at least I will get this much profit. Okay, so these are the wind power constraints, like whatever is the wind power is scheduling in the day-ahead market and intraday markets, and then the limits of the wind power. Then we face some imbalance delta, which is like forecast minus the actual schedule of day-ahead and real time. Then we have some limits on that. Similarly, on energy storage, we have limits, that whatever is the charge and discharge and like energy storage, energy balance constraint. So these are like standard constraints. Then we have a coordination constraint, that suppose if we have some imbalance in the wind power, then some balancing power will be supplied from the storage, and whatever is the difference of these two will go into the balancing, like the overall balancing power required from the real-time market, and the imbalance cost will be decided by this quantity, whether it is a positive or negative. Based upon that, we will see some penalty prices, and we can calculate the imbalance. So if you look at this problem, it's a very complicated problem, and it's a non-linear in nature. So Okay, so we if we solve this problem, we can so again, we have considered all the markets. So we have considered day-ahead market, real-time market, and then imbalance cost from the real-time market, and we have used wind and energy storage coordination to minimize the imbalance cost. Apart from that, we have to model it as risk constant. So in the risk constant, what we can do is like with the same objective, we can formulate as a risk model. In this case, whatever is our objective function is here, and along with that we have added one more term, which is like provide a risk measure, that what will be the risk measure. And here this modeling is for conditional value at the risk, that what will be whatever will be the value at the risk with some certain confidence level. Okay, and this equality and inequality constants are the same. All these equations are there in hx and gx. And apart from that, we have one additional constant that which is given by the this risk based formulation. So if we optimize this one, we get a risk constant optimization, and if we solve it, we will get a schedule which is based upon the value of the risk, and then a decision maker can make a decision. Okay, so now like our objective is like we are talking about the financial settlement. So let's say they have coordinated, they have utilized the schedule. Now if they are coordinating with like together, they will make some surplus profit. So like based upon this different value of this beta, the risk average factor, uh, we have received some like when wind power is working alone, this is the expected profit, which is the first term, and the second term is the conditional value at the risk, so this is the second term. And similarly, when energy storage alone is working, we are getting some expected profit and some valued the risk. Okay, and when both of these two quantities entities are working together, they are getting some profit, and I have written down the surplus profit. So they are making some surplus profit. So the question is how to allocate this surplus profit. So if you look at these results, like for a like very short term 3 hour scenario, I have considered these. If you look at these results, the expected profit of energy storage is remain like the same, because as I have already told you that energy storage is dispatchable. We can dispatch it, we can decide that how much it is going to charge and discharge throughout the time period. So whatever is the profit, even if you increase the risk factor, like the in decision, or like suppose you are making that, okay, my decision should have very less risk, then I will use a very high value of beta, so that the overall objective will be the to minimize this risk factor. Okay, so in that case, like even if you increase this beta factor, it doesn't matter, because it doesn't have uncertainty. So this expected profit is throughout a constant for energy storage, and this risk value is also throughout constant. Okay, like it's slightly when it is zero, then when beta is zero, then obviously we are not considering this in an objective. From this we are getting some contribution in case of wind power plant, where we are getting certain extent, then it is again constant. Even if you increase still you have uncertainty. So expected profit is going to reduce. So you have to take care of it. Obviously, sorry, am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Hello,
Yes, sir.
hello.
You're audible to me.
Okay, I will turn off my video. Okay.
Okay.
Uh, So if you look at the like for wind power plant alone, then your expected profit is going like is reducing, but your risk value is improving. So you have to make a trade-off that if you like, if your risk value is very less, then you are going to face a very high risk. But in that case, your expected profit is high. So you have to make a decision whether like you are going to. So if you like, it's an expected profit, it's not an actual profit. So the risk value with this is very low. So you have to make a trade-off that okay, at which point you want to work alone. So based upon different values of beta, you will get different schedule, and you have to bid that schedule in the market. And if they both of them work together, then this is the combined outcome, and it's somewhat more than their individual work. Okay, so now let's talk about the settlement. Like, so we have talked about the coordination. Now let's talk about the settlement at the financial settlement of the surplus profit. So we have seen that if they are working together, it's a mutually beneficial for both the parties. And if they are working together, it's a cooperative game theory. So we can solve the cooperative game theory. Like, there are different solution techniques in the cooperative game theory, which is like Shapley value, nucleus, or minimization of worst case success for every collision. So these are like few techniques. And then collision of wind power producer and storage gives that extra profit. Okay, as well as reduced risk. So optimal way of profit settlement should be a risk-based allocation. So let's say we are getting some extra profit, and if you say that okay, divide it between both the parties, divide this surplus like half, then it is not fair for energy storage, because this energy storage is providing a um, balancing support, as well as it is minimizing the risk value. Okay, so this is like, whatever is the profit settlement decision we are going to make, uh, it has to take care, like consider the risk value. So let's like consider this example. Okay, so here, like, I am only considering the expected profit. So this is like a wind power plant and energy storage individual profit, and then we have a combined profit and the surplus of 90, okay, dollars. Then if I use the profit sharing with equal proportion, then both of those wind and energy storage. So this is the individual profit, and out of this 90, 45 will be allocated to wind and 45 will be allocated to energy storage. So then both of these will get the equal part. So that's not fair from the energy storage point of view, because like he can say that okay, I'm providing balancing support as well as I'm improving your risk profile, and still I'm getting the same profit. So that can be a question. So for that, we can use a weighted allocation. So whatever is surplus profit, we can define some weights, and these weights will be defined using the risk value, a risk faced by the participant in the collision, and based upon the risk remove, like whatever is like how they are improving the risk profile. Based upon that, we can make a decision that okay, these are the weights, and based upon those weights, we are going to allocate the profit. So this is like usually a standard, like when you, whatever is the uncertainties in the nature, they are mostly of a Gaussian nature. So we are also assuming that the expected profit will follow the Gaussian curve or a bell curve. So the condition value at risk, which we have modeled here, is somewhat here, and this is like, these are like few terms how to measure the risk. And this is the maximum expected profit of this expectation of this whole curve. So whatever is the distance of the risk value, we are going to use that deviation for calculating the weights. So like, we have modeled our risk as a conditional value of risk, so we are going to calculate this deviation. So this is expected profit, so expected profit minus conditional value of risk, which is at this point, and then we are normalizing it with the expected profit of individual participants. So we will calculate this CVR deviation for energy storage as well as for wind power producer, and based upon that, we will define some weights, and using those weights, if we allocate the um, excess profit, then energy storage gets a very high profit because of its property to reduce the risk, and wind producer also gets a part of it, but it has to compromise, like it is not going to get a half of the excess profit, because it is plagued with the uncertainty, and it has a very high risk value associated with it. Okay, so if we look at the observations from the weighted allocation, so it is observed that the players with the low risk value gets allocated more benefit compared to high uncertain players. And this approach motivates wind power producers and energy storage to form coalition. Like wind power producer have a benefit that okay, oh, my overall risk profile will be improved, and energy storage has a motivation that okay, I will get more profit in the surplus, that whatever I'm making, that is sure mine, but in the surplus profit I am going to get more profit because of the properties I have as a balancing, to provide the balancing support. So but the wind power producer will get lesser part. Okay, but with the low risk associated, and energy storage will get more in surplus for balancing capability. So these are the observations from here. Now, so this is one thing like profit settlement. Now let's talk about like the different cost uh, are there in the system, and one of the cost is deviation cost. So suppose all the participants which are there, if uh, if they are renewables, they are going to deviate in the whatever is the day schedule in the real time, and because of that they see the deviation cost. So let's talk about first of all what is the deviation cost. So like it's a very simple example. Obviously it is not a practical system. So let's say there are like two loads. Like I'm not considering a renewable generation at DG here, I'm just simply considering two loads just to understand what is the deviation cost. So let's say this P1 and P2 and P3, like both of them are like one per unit, and they are scheduled one per unit in the day ahead market. So let's say at bus number one is our distribution company, and it has to procure this much power from the market here. Okay, so the distribution company have procured this much power in the market, and but let's say in real time this P3 or the load at bus 3 is changed by the 10%, like increased its consumption by 10%, then it has to procure a extra power. So the power drawn at a reference from bus for the day-ahead schedule is this much, including the losses as well. Okay, so these 0.523 is the losses in the system. So, but in the real time, because of the deviation, the power drawn at the reference bus in the real time schedule is much higher, and because of that the distribution company sees a deviation cost. Okay, so the distribution company overall, like the whole net, it owns the whole network and it sees a deviation cost. Okay, so that deviation cost is whatever is the real time price lambda and the difference of real time minus day. So this is the deviation cost. Now, in this case, like in this simple example, we can say that okay, participant 3 is only responsible for this course, so it has to be allocated to participant 3 only. But in a large system, there will be multiple participants which are going to deviate from their schedules, and in that case, it is very difficult to allocate this cost from the like it's a very difficult from the distribution company point of view, that how to allocate this cost to like which participant is responsible and how much to what extent it is responsible. So it is very difficult to allocate this cost. So again we can use like the so this cost is again a cooperative outcome of the like when all the like participants deviating from the schedule, and we can use cooperative game theory, and we can utilize the Shapley value for the allocation of this cost. So deviation cost is due to the changes in the day schedule. So so again these are the attributes. So it should not be allocated to the players who have zero adjustment in the day schedule. Okay, so suppose one player is not even deviating from the schedule, then it should not allocate any cost to that particular player. So uh, like the Shapley value has different axioms or rules which it follows. So a dummy axiom is like one of the property of the Shapley value, which says that if suppose you are there in the system but your role is zero, then the allocation to you will also be zero. So these are like the for the dummy exam, these are the definitions. The allocation to a dummy participants which is like not responsible for the deviation cost, the allocation to that participant will be zero using Shapley value. Okay, so here what we can do is like we can have like sum up all the deviations, and because of this those deviation, what is the overall uh, change in the losses, and based upon that we can calculate the overall deviation cost, and then using the Shapley value we can allocate that. So like about the Shapley value, we'll talk about it in detail uh, in the part 2. So like these are the results for a like very simple system, that how it is going to allocate. So suppose the deviation, like this scenario 2, if I consider the node at node number 7 we have some load, and if it does not deviate, then the allocation in the deviation cost is also zero. So like here again its deviation is zero, so the allocation is zero. So you can see that if you are not deviating from the schedule, then the allocation in the deviation cost is also zero. So we can utilize Shapley value or the cooperative game theory for allocation of the deviation cost or the settlement of the deviation cost. So these are the conclusion for these two parts that we have considered, talked about strategic operation of the wind and energy storage, and coordination of both of these two like always lead to some profit with less risk. So the to allocate that extra profit, we need some profit settlement rules, and these rules are defined based upon the risk measures of the player, and a weighted profit allocation uh, is used to allocate these losses, and we can use like game theory based allocation for the settlement of the cost. Now, so this is part 1, and now let's talk about the another factor, which is the loss allocation. So this is the part 2. So this is the flow of presentation. So let's talk about again the introduction. So it's the same, but again the competition is has been introduced, and participants are more concerned about their deeds. So if they are utilizing the network, there will be some network losses. Okay, and if there are some network losses, these losses has to be allocated efficiently. Okay, so so these are like we have different large number of DGs also integrated. So the nature of the distribution network is changed from like earlier it was passive, now it is active distribution network, because and the power flows are in reverse direction as well. So the loss allocation, the traditional methods, we cannot utilize those methods again in case of the active distribution network. So okay, so this we have already talked about, and so in competitive market environment, any service or the cost occurred by a participant should be charged. Okay, so the distribution loss depends upon the size, that whatever is the consumption or the production. So how much quantity you are consuming or how much quantity you are producing. So that depends upon the size. Then what is the location of the participant, whether it is a load or DG. So it depends upon the location as well. Then another like I have talked about that DZ integration changes the nature of the passive network to the active, and the unidirectional power flows becomes the bidirectional power flows. And again, the we are facing a large number of DGs in the distribution network. So the existing loss allocation methodologies, they sees a technical challenge with them. So like if I talk about few existing loss allocation methodologies, so one is pro rata. So pro rata is like you distribute the 50% loss to the generator, or like suppose there are 100% loss in the system, then 50% to the generators and 50% to the loads, and then like that 50% which has been allocated to the loads, based upon the consumption or the actual net quantity of the load, you can divide according to whatever is the proportion, and you can allocate that. So it's a like simple method. So that's a one thing, that it's very simple, easy to understand, but it neglect the location of the load. And like at some locations we are not seeing a lot of generators still. In that case, the slack bus or the reference bus is like can be treated as a generator who is providing the whole power to the system. In that case, the 50% losses which are going to allocate it to the generators, then they have to pay half of the losses. So it's a huge amount they have to pay. So that's one thing. Then there are some marginal and direct loss coefficient, but these are like actually traditionally developed for the transmission system, and then we are utilizing those methods in the distribution system as well. But It's very difficult because they use and the Newton-Raphson power flow, and they use Jacobian and Hessian matrix, which is very computationally intensive matrix for the distribution network. So again, we usually don't go with these two methods. Then there is a Z-bus method. So again, in this we need a, like, we have to calculate a Z-bus, and in case of distribution network, it is very sparse because there are very less number of like closed loops are usually we call distribution network either radial or weakly mesh. It's not completely mesh. So the Y bus matrix will be sparse matrix, and forming Z bus will depends upon the node singularity of the Y bus. So it is very difficult to get a Z bus matrix for the distribution network. So again, we cannot utilize the Z bus based method. Then another is a branch current decomposition, that you decompose each branch current's losses into the responsible parties. So again, this method again has some challenge that it requires some additional forward sweep, and it is again specifically developed for the radial network. Like, you cannot utilize it for the weakly mesh network, because then in that case it is very difficult uh, to decompose the branch currents into the respective nodes. Then similar power and energy summation, it is again specifically developed for the radial network. It's similar to branch current decomposition. Then we have some exact methods. So these methods like exact and power and energy summation methods, they are specifically developed for the radial network. So those are the things. Now we need some new methods to allocate our losses efficiently to the responsible parties. So again, if I talk about the game theory, so cooperative game are a form of play in which all the players work together, okay, work with one another, and they form a coalition, and the to attain a common objective. So condition is whatever is the collisional outcome, it should be more than the equal of the individual outcome of the players. So this condition we have already talked about for the profit sharing. Okay. So now if I talk about network losses, the network losses is usually caused by the utilization of the network by all the participants. And if a single participant is there, the network loss will be less. And if there are more number of participants, and the network losses increase quadratically. Okay, so obviously we are going to fulfill this condition, and we can use a cooperative game theory, and the common objective is losses. So we have to allocate those losses. So this loss allocation problem, it's a, like I talked about the collisions, like they can be a, like willingly we are going to form a collision, like wind power producer and energy storage, they have a willingness to form a collision for more profit. But in case of loss allocation, they don't want this collision, but it is natural and naturally there, and you cannot neglect it. So it's a grand collision of all participants, and it is in nature of the system. So we can use a cooperative game for the allocation of the network losses. Okay. So losses in the distribution system varies qualitatively. So as the number of loads and DGs increase, so we are going to we satisfy this condition that the losses for all the participants are always greater than and equals to the individual sum of losses by the individual participants. So we can use theorem to allocate these losses. Now, there are few attributes of Shapley value, that it is inherently fair and impartial. It performs all the permutations in order of entry for each player, examine each possible combination, so that it, it doesn't get impartial to like certain players to perform, like it talks about all combination and permutation, so that it doesn't get partial and unfair with a single participant, like few participants. So that's why it is inherently fair and impartial. But the problem with the Shapley values, it's a computational burden is increased exponentially. So let's say we have this branch and there are two power flows. So okay, we have 15 minutes more. So let's say these are the two branches, like in this one branch, let's say we have some r of resistance of this branch is r, and we have two power flows pi and pj. The total losses will be pi plus pg whole square into r. If I assume that voltages are 1 per unit, then I can write down the approximated line losses are these, and we can write down this in the form of current also. So if I allocate these losses to this transaction Pi or Pj, I can directly see that Pi square into R can be allocated to ith player, whatever is the ith player. Then Pj square into R can be allocated to jth player. Now the question is this cross term, who is going, like how we are going to allocate this cross term between I and J. So this remains a question. Now this two so this cross term is 2 pi pj r, and if I assume that r is 1 per unit, then I can say that 2 pi pj is equals to some beta I pi, it's a pi pj plus beta j pi pj. So point of option, it's j actually. Okay, so from here we can see that this beta I, this factor beta I will like whatever is this product will be allocated to ith player, and this product will be allocated to the jth player. So we have to come up with some beta I and beta j, two factors, and from this equation we can come up, we can have this one condition that okay, we have to satisfy this condition, and from this condition we can calculate beta I and beta j, and based upon beta I and beta j I can allocate this part to the ith player and this part to the jth player. Okay, so now if we want to allocate this one, we can see like few methods which are already there in the system. That one is a proportionate allocation, another is a quadratic allocation, and another third one is a geometric allocation. So this is the condition we have received earlier, like to allocate the cross term, the individual terms are already allocated. To allocate the cross term, this is the one condition. So based upon like proportional allocation is like all this beta I and beta j are proportional to pi and pg, and like we can utilize this one condition, this, and another condition is this. Using that we can calculate beta I and beta j, and if we know the beta I and beta j, we can allocate the cross term which is remain unallocated. Then in quadratic allocation, it says that okay, losses are quadratic, like varies quadratically. So this beta and beta j should be quadratic in the nature, and they are proportional to the square of pi and pj. And based upon that, we can get different factors, and we can again allocate the losses. Then like geometric and fast geometrics are like these two conditions, which is like proportional to the logarithmic of pi and pj, and again we can get some beta and beta j, and we can allocate the losses. So we have like the problem is how to allocate the gross term, and we have different allocation. So which solution or which method is optimal? Like how, which, if we are, I'm going to allocate, which method should I choose? So okay, now let's talk about so this is the classical methods available. Now let's talk about the game theory based solution. So again, this is the allocation to ith player, and this is the condition that beta I and beta j should equals to 2, and I can formulate this condition like for individual I player and the player number participant j. So this will be the objective, the Lagrangian functions, and if I minimize both of these in iteration, I will get a Nash equilibrium, and based upon that I can get beta I and beta j at the overall allocation. Then another method from the game theory is the Shapley value. So this is the formula for Shapley value, and we will talk about how to use, and based upon Shapley value we can allocate the losses. And then another method is the nuclear loss, which minimize the excess, that like whatever is the allocation and whatever is the value of that allocation. So from whatever is the difference between those two, we minimize that, and based upon that we get some allocation. So these three methods are there in the, like there are others, but we have, let's say we are considering only these three methods to allocate the this losses. Now let's compare with the allocation. So those two transactions, like we had one line and we had some I transaction, okay, and one J transaction, okay. So one is I transaction and J transaction. So let's assume that ith transaction is 10 per unit, jth transaction was like power flow was 1 per unit, and the resistance of line was 1 per unit. So the total losses are 121, like 10 plus 111 whole square into R. So 121 per unit was the total losses. And if I use like these three methods, I will get some allocation factor beta 1 and beta 2 to allocate the closed stuff, and this will be the total allocation to the player participant 1, and this is the total allocation to the participant 2, which is 1 per unit here. Okay, so but if you look at the Shapley value, like all the three methods of the game theory, whether it is a Nash equilibrium, whether it is a Shapley value or nucleus, and they all gives the same value of beta 1 and beta 2, and they all provide the same allocation. Okay, so again, we have the same question that okay, we have now earlier we have three methods: proportionate, quadratic, and geometric, which are giving completely different result. Now we have one more game theory based method, but again it is also different from all of these three. So again, which one to choose? So the question remains the same. So now let's check for the aggregate invariancy or the like market power or like utilized by the participant. So what is aggregate invariant? So sometimes like if your method is not efficient, what participant do is like suppose that first part transaction of 10 per unit, let's say if it divides this 10 per unit into like and become virtually two participants, that okay, I'm not a single participant, and to the system operator it says that I'm two participant, 5 per unit each. And if that is the case, then how your method is going to behave? So the first transaction we have divided into 2 of 5 per unit. So again, so now in this case, like virtually we have three transactions, 2 of 5 per unit and 1 of 1 per unit. So it's a same line, same amount of power flow. Even actually this only we have only two participants, but virtually let's assume that we have three participants, 5 5 and 1 per unit. So in that case, what will be the solution? So if we allocate using those again, like with the all of like three methods or the game theory based method, the proportionate allocation, yeah, gives like before it was higher to the player number one, and if it plays some game and divide itself virtually into two transactions like 5 per unit each, then the overall allocation get reduced. Similarly, it is being followed in all of these three methods. But game theory based method take care of that also. Like suppose if participant plays some game or some like bend the rules, as it, the method is efficient enough to identify that also, and it will allocate the same losses, even if like whether you have divided the transactions multiple or you have joined the transactions, it doesn't matter, the allocation will remain the same. So this 5 and 5 per unit, it is the first player, and the overall allocation is lesser in these three, and simply value or the game theory based methods provide the same result. So this is like from this observation we can say that we should utilize game theory based method for the loss allocation, because they remain invariant to the aggregacy of the participants. Okay, so now let's talk about like how to calculate Shapley value, like one of the methods. So this is the formula, and let's say n is the grand collision when all the participants are present. So like all the participants are present here, then s is any subset of n, then the total number of collisions we can see here is 2 raised to power n, and this is the formula for like calculation, like allocation to the player number I. We are going to utilize this formula. Okay, so let's say I have a three players, okay, and I have used some random values, like when there is no one and the value of the losses in the system is 0. When player number one is present, the losses in the system is 1. Player number 2 is present, let's assume the losses are 0 again. And then when player 3 it's 1, when 1 and 2 are there, are 4, 5, 3, and 8, so on. So we have like the value or the losses in the system, and this is my formula. So this formula says that you have to sum over these two conditions. That let's say I am allocating uh, Shapley value to player number 1. Okay, so in this case, what I can do is this player number I should be part of S. So these are the set S. Okay, and if I fulfill this condition that I should be element of S, then I am left with these four collisions only, and then I will sum over this term over these four collisions. So I can write down these values that okay, this for this first collision, this S is number of element in the collision 1. So here on it is only 1. So we have written 1 minus 1. Then N is the number of participant, which is 3, and again it is 1. Then value of S is obviously here it is 1. And if I out of this set S, if I remove the player number 1, so it only has player number 1, and if I remove this one, there is nobody left, so it will be zeroth set, so it's value of 0. Similarly, I can calculate like sum up over all these four sets and calculate the Shapley value. But if you look at here, even if you are allocating the whatever is our objective, whether it's a loss or cost, to player number 1, it needs all the collisions available in the system. So we have 8 number of collisions, and if you look at it, needs 0, 1, 2, 3. Okay, then 1, 2, 1, 3, 2, 3, and 1, 3. So all the 8 number, which is 2 raised to power n, it requires all of these collisions to allocate, and then we can like get the allocation that this is the allocation to player number 1, and similarly player number 2 and player number 3. So this is a very basic example with the three players. Now let's say in a distribution system when we have hundreds of players or hundreds of loads and DGs in the system, then for 100 players number of collisions will be 2 raised to power n. So I have already told that number of collisions are 2 raised to power n. So if I calculate the number of collisions are 2 raised to power 100, which it will be equals to 1.2 raised to power 30. And for each collision I have to calculate this value, characteristic value. Okay, so let's assume that calculating characteristic value for a single collision requires 1 microseconds, 1 into 10 to the power minus 6 seconds. So time for all of to evaluate the characteristic value for all of these collisions will be 1.2 into 10 to the power 24 seconds. And if I convert this into years, it is 4.02 into 10 to the power 16 years. So for 100 players, you have to spend this much number of years to calculate or allocate the losses using Shapley. So that's the problem with the Shapley. So okay, so we have already talked about that like number of collisions are 2 raised to power n, and for the 33 players, this will be the number of collisions, and it requires a lot of memory in the system as well as the time. So that's a problem with the conventional Shapley value. So the solution for this conventional Shapley value is we can see like there are two methods. One is sequential Shapley value, another is analytical formulation of Shapley value. So sequential Shapley value is applicable for the radial, and analytical formulation is applicable for the radial as well as weakly matched. And there are no assumptions made. So whatever is the outcome of whether SSV or ASV, it says equals to the conventional Shapley value without having this computational burden. Okay, so like I will let me go quickly with the sequential Shapley value. So let's say this is the system, then the losses in this branch B1 will be the like currents in branch B1 will be I2 plus B2 plus B4. Okay, so the losses will be currents square into R1, and these losses will be allocated to I2, B4, and B2. So instead of allocating the to all the participants, we are just allocating at the particular node. We start from the root node and go towards the end node. So we allocate that, and using Shapley value, we have allocated from these two. So I2 has been settled, So this is the allocation to the I2. Now B2 and B4 are allocated this much losses. Okay, now these are the allocations. Now let's talk about from the branch B4. So branch B4 will have two components. One is self branch losses, that whatever is the B4 square into R4, and allocation from the previous branch. So this is the like previous allocation. So from this previous allocation we have received that one, which is like assigned branch losses from the previous branch. So we will allocate these two to again these two participants which are down the string, so which is one is I5 and one is DG2, and we get this allocation. So if I solve in sequential fashion, I have the number of players are more, like at node number 2 players are 3, at node number 3 players are 2, number 4 it is 2, and at node number 5 it is 2. But the number of collisions required is 2 raised to power n, so it is 8, 4, 4, and 4. So total number of collisions required using sequential Shapley value is 20 only. And if I just go with the conventional Shapley value, then the total number of nodes are like players are 6. So 2 raised to power 6 is 64 number of collisions. So like using the sequential Shapley value, we reduce the number of collisions and along with the computation burden and memory requirement. So that's one way of doing it. Now let's talk about the analytical formulation. In this, what we like, it's a very complex mathematics that we write down the branch currents in form of the current injection. So it's like branch currents are equals to BIBC matrix into the nodal injections, and based upon that we can calculate the losses. So losses are nothing but the branch current square into R, and if we sum up over all the number of branches I equals to 1 to m, and we get the total network losses. And then using the Shapley value formula and some network theorems, so like arithmetic progression series and some superposition theorem, uh, we get this final formula which allocate the losses to player number I. So instead of the detailed Shapley value formula, which is this one, which requires all the collisions to be calculated, and like lot of computation burden is involved with this convention Shapley value formula, we are end up with this single formula. And here in this single formula, if you look at what are the things we need, is BIBC matrix. So BIBC matrix is always fixed for a topology. So it's very simple, easy to calculate. It's just a matrix. Then IBN is the like nodal injection when all the participants are present. So like for all the participants, we know what are they are going to inject. So we know IBN, and then again BIBC matrix, and then IBI is injection of the ith player only. And if you multiply in this fashion, then you get the allocation to the player one. So it is like just in like one operation of like multiplication, and it doesn't take any time. Okay, so what are what we have achieved using these simply value variants, that loss allocation using game theory based solution are inherently fair and impartial. The computation burden is reduced using these two variants to significant amount. So like if I just give you a comparison, for 17 bus system, if I go with the conventional Shapley value, the number of collisions are 32,000. And if I talk about the sequential Shapley value, the number of collisions are only 50. So like earlier, if you look here, it is still comparable, that like compared to 64 we are still have to solve 20. So it is a smaller system. But if you go to a larger system, the number of collisions are reduced with a like great extent, and the computational time are or like for both the SSV and ASV are comparable. So like I am not giving the time for both of them, but it's comparable. But if I calculate the conventional Shapley value for these methods, I need 4 seconds for 17 bus system, and for 24 bus system I need 5,000 seconds. Okay, and after 24 system, like if I go with the 25 bus system, I cannot solve using my computer. So this is the like limit of the computing facility I have. So I can only solve up to 24 bus, and it will take like around 5,000 seconds, which is roughly around 2 hours or something. And for the 69 bus system I cannot call but solve, from the conventional Shipley value, but the sequential Shipley value still takes like milliseconds. Okay, so we can use these variants to allocate the cost and loss and the efficient allocation and this for the settlement. And again, we have seen that these results does not vary with the aggregancy, and they provides a fair and impartial result, uh, irrespective of the like some abuse from the participant. They split their bids or they combined their bids. Irrespective of that, we get the fair results. So this is the conclusion that we have talked about two variants which are derived from the conventional Shipley value, but we are utilizing some network topology to reduce the computation burden. Okay, and the implementation of this is straightforward. We don't need complicated programming or some computational effort. It's like single formula for an analytical Shipley value, and for sequential Shipley value, like you start from the root node and move towards the end node, and just calculate the conventional Shipley value on the way. So then sequential Shipley requires a very less number of collisions for evaluation, and ASV doesn't even require number of collisions. It just a single formula, analytical Shipley value. It's the analytical formula, and you just need current injection and BIBC matrix. That's it, and it will give you the exact allocation compared to the Shipley value, which is fair and partial. So this is it from my side, and if you have some questions, please ask them. Anyone?
Anyone from the audience? Anyone from the participants? Do we have any questions for the speaker?
Yes. Yes, Shalim. Yes. So, yeah, okay. So, it's an interesting one. So, first of all, like we talked about the need of collision. Okay, so we are talking about the collision like that two participants are making a alliance and getting more profit. So, the need for, like I have talked about one condition, that collision will only be formed if the profit of collision is more than the sum of individual profit. So if I talk about the wind and solar, if they are forming a collision, both have uncertainty. Okay, so what is the need for making that collision? Like both have uncertainty, so you cannot be sure that the overall profit, expected profit, will be more. And I have seen it using like with a small system data. Like I have not gone into like a detailed case study, but with like small data, I have seen it that the overall total profit uh, will not always be more of the individual profit. So in that case, you cannot utilize the cooperative game theory. But yes, if you are using solar with energy storage, yes, definitely solar again has uncertainty, and energy storage can provide the balancing support. So yes, you can use solar and energy storage. And usually, like if you install the solar power plants at your even your house, you always have a battery system along with it. So it's a inherent natural alliance that you have to use batteries along with the solar. So in that case also you will see the same kind of results. Yeah. Yes, that can be interesting. So yes, Alexa, like I haven't gone into detail with the solar. So if you are saying like it's complementing each other, then definitely like if they form a collision and bid all together, like the four conditions I have used, that both of energy storage and wind power plants are bidding day ahead market separately, and then they are forming collision in the real time for balancing. But in this case, suppose if we are saying that solars and wind are complementing each other, in that case they have to bid all together in the system. Like they cannot bid isolated in the system and then provide a balancing support. So in that case, I think if they combined bid in the market along with like as a single bid in the market, then they have more chances to make higher profit.
Thank you, sir. Do we have any more questions? Dear participants, do we have any more questions from our expert? So it was a pleasure listening to you. Thank you so much.
Still, like if you have any doubts, you can email me also. Like if
Okay,
you
sir.
have any doubts in future, any participants, so suppose if you go through it again, and if you like after this talk, if you want to like study about these topics in future, you can go through my research papers also, and if you have any doubt in those, you can always email me. You can see my email, I think, in the presentation also, and if you visit the MNIT website, you can see my email and email me always.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank
So we'll connect with you for future events also.
Yes, yes,
Thank you, sir.
definitely. It's okay, completely okay. It's completely fine.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Dear participants,